Previously on my Magistralverse meetings, I have discussed plans on becoming a YouTuber, and I have met Nostalgia Homesick turned Mistletoe Viscum album. I have fought the Illuminati. I have went to a cafe with Mistletoe Viscum album to fight an axolotl with the help of the second Little Red Riding Hood, who would be revealed to have been Azurdi Dreamer turned dragon mythology. I would discuss plans with my group, the Team Miscellaneous, to celebrate Pharaoh Olaf's birthday, and Mal took over my mind in the midst of August 2025, and now it's going to be the month anniversary and the eventual anniversary for a video game that I like, named Undertale. I resonate with this game because it brings life into the characters, and I resonate with the majority of these characters, inspiring me to keep going as a YouTuber. I've had difficult times becoming a YouTuber because I faced enemies, not just the school viewers, but also the call-out posters, and just about anyone who has actively opposed the Magistralverse. I really just call them the anti-Magistralverse, and it's just really difficult. But overall, I'm trying my best to be both a YouTuber and a human being. It's difficult because with having allies, friends, I've also have faced enemies, many of which overlap the friends and allies that I barely even have, to the point of making up my imaginary friends that I have left, specifically Mistletoe Viscum album, dragon mythology, and another particular individual who has been the original founder through the Team Miscellaneous, the heroical group I ultimately have founded, for the most part, officially so, but I wasn't the original founder. More as so, I have been the original co-founder, but the official founder. This individual in particular is similarly dimorphic to me, panromantic, demisexual, and gender fluid, Mistletoe Viscum album, who is demiromantic, pansexual, and gender fluid, and dragon mythology, who is demiromantic and queer. And this individual's name is Azula Adores Azika, known as Zula Zika, or just Zeus XP. Zeus XP originally founded the Team Miscellaneous in order to ensure that I do not become villainous, that I do not become Lucifer Reborning Star. And to an extent, she has merely succeeded, albeit minutely succeeded in stopping me from becoming Lucifer Reborning Star. However, there is still the empty feeling of the temptation for me to want to become Lucifer Reborning Star. It feels too much for me to be able to handle, and it overbears me, and it's really difficult for me to be able to control my emotions at this point. It is uncontrollable, to say the least. And Mel doesn't even have to further worsen it, because this Lucifer thing is somewhat more within my doing. Mel just mirrors my negative thoughts and feelings and energy. But even then, he was nice enough to create Nostalgia Homesick, who would then become Mistletoe Viscum album. So he isn't purely evil. He's not even a main antagonist, but rather a secondary antagonist turned deuteragonist or tritagonist. If anything, Mal is inconsistently admirable overall, with him briefly trying to give me at least a purpose in life by creating Nostalgia Homesick in the first place, as well as protecting me from the school viewers. But Mal has descended into villainy at one point, and I think the villainy definitely is the biggest inconsistent factor that stops Mal from becoming near pure good, let alone pure good. So Mal, to me, is inconsistently admirable, to say the least. And he would probably be a villainous benchmark at most in comparison to other villains he would have to compete against. But considering he chose to try to mold me into a villain at one point, I think he has somewhat of potential of being an inconsistently heinous villain if he's able to meet enough of the heinous standards. But I still think he has potential as a villainous benchmark until his villainy is explored well enough by my audience throughout the Magistralverse. In fact, the TM elements do not entirely apply to the Magistralverse elements. The Absolute Verse elements do not entirely apply to the Magistralverse elements, and vice versa. It could go either way. The retcon Mageddon has constantly established these very few things, the canon throughout the Magistralverse, and if the retcon Mageddon hasn't further emphasized, let alone prefaced all of these canon ramifications, then I, as the creator for Time Majesty Ruff's Adventures, Magistralverse, and the Absolute Anthology, and so on and so forth, will be the one to say that these specific series are not substitute canons for neither of which of each other whatsoever. If any of these characters have crossed over throughout the series, it's probably nothing more than a simple cameo, but I don't think it's a genuine crossover. I think it's just a simple little reference or cameo, and nothing more and nothing less. But if you would like to assume or guess that these are genuine crossovers and that they apply to each other and they substitute the canons for each other, then I guess you can make up all these fanon speculated headcanons all you'd like. But I get these call-out posters who try to ship Mistletoe, Viscamalbum, Dragon Mythology, and Zeus Zixpi with each other. And while their attraction is a multi-spectrum attraction, and they're relatively so diamoric or even sapphic, because bisexuals and pansexuals and queers can fall under the sapphic umbrella so long as they're a woman-loving woman, I don't consider Mistletoe Viscamalbum, Dragon Mythology, nor Zeus Zixpi to even be remotely close to identifying as a lesbian whatsoever. And if anyone has tried to draw and animate them as such, it serves as nothing more than fan and speculation, and it is not entirely headcanon to the way they want to paint it out to be. I consider Mistletoe Viscamalbum, Dragon Mythology, and Zeus Zixpi to have feelings and share their bond of these feelings that they have for me, Mr. Magistral Malik, rather than having these feelings with each other. And if they even shared any feelings of such, the feelings are nothing more than one-night stands or friends with a benefits than anything more than such. As I'm going over this, the moon is slowly falling down. I wish I had enough time to record it, but oh well. The moon is just going down a little bit. It's a little bit more yellow than usual, and I don't know why. And I don't think it'd be a solar eclipse because I believe a solar eclipse has happened already this year. I was actually nice enough to get solar eclipse for Captain Calico and Professor Frago. And those were the only lighthearted memories I've had last year, apart from ordering this tofu banh mi sandwich. And I think about the times when I go out to watch movies, wishing that there was a real-life Mistletoe Viscamalbum, real-life Dragon Mythology, and real-life Zeus Zixpi out there who could at least be able to fill in the emptiness within my lonely heart. But I don't even know if it would be enough. Whenever I make these season finales, it gets so emotional. And I try so hard to put emotions aside when it comes to wrapping up a story, but it's really just this difficult to even do so. I just look at YouTube and all these people working together and collaborating, and I think to myself, they're all just having fun without me, and I feel sad and alone, and like I've hit my all-time low, and I just feel so lonely. I don't know any other words to be able to emphasize how alone I feel. I could say that I've been diagnosed with autism and then eventually ADHD and major depressive disorder. I've had these diagnoses in my records, so I don't have much more to lie about, let alone gain out of such lies if anyone even tries to speculate my mental health. Because I've been focusing on the diagnosis I've been told by those closest to me, and I've only speculated if I had dissociative identity disorder, borderline personality disorder, let alone sociopathy within the antisocial personality disorder. These are just more of educated guesses based upon my researching off of these mental health diagnoses. It's not me self-diagnosing. If I even depicted myself with these type of disorders, I speculate I might have or might not have. Those are more for me to at least explain how I'm feeling throughout my life, but at least sugarcoating it throughout the Magistralverse in simplicity. I guess they're like the Hollywood exaggerative swagger of a fictional character with mental illness. However, it's supposed to go. The exaggerative swagger of someone with a mental disorder. And it would be how I depict Mr. Magistral Malik. How else would I be able to depict a Mr. Magistral Malik without a mental disorder? I would consider my character's characterization to be something that people could potentially learn from and hopefully not repeat. It would just be how it goes, how the story goes throughout the Magistralverse. Magistralverse this, Magistralverse that, and so on and so forth. You know, throughout the Magistralverse, there's a time at some point where I just really want to be able to do the good I had in mind, not knowing exactly how. I wanted to be a police officer instead of a YouTube cartoonist originally, but there was a girl slightly far more older than me who would work her way towards becoming a police officer and pushing aside her dreams to become an artist, an animator, becoming a cartoonist like me up until now. So she would be a police officer and I would be a cartoonist, and we practically switched roles anyways with our dreams. And I think it felt like to some capacity I wanted to do this YouTube stuff as a cartoonist to be able to fulfill the dreams that other people haven't been able to fully accomplish. At least being able to do this form of good, at least for someone who needed to at least get this done the most. I tried to get this dream accomplished for them. And this goes towards the late Ed Gold, who made Ed's World, the late Nick Dante, who created Group 5, and the list goes on. I've wanted to just keep going as a YouTuber, a cartoonist who draws and animates furries. That's all I've wanted to be able to do, and it feels like there's so much in the way of it all. And I don't really have other people to blame anyways, because I feel like the failures, it's just on me. I failed as both a YouTuber and a person, a human being who's supposed to be as normal and morally good as everybody else. And I failed to do anything as simple as those 2 to 3 things. I just would have these panic attacks. And I'm not even trying to use any of these things as a joke. I'm just genuinely at my lowest point, and I get overwhelmed all the time. Get all these nightmares in my head, and I just worry so much about everything. I'd have to be recycling bottles in order to make ends meet and be able to have enough money for anything as simple as therapy. But I don't even know if I would even attend to therapy. It's just something I personally don't think would work for me, because I've been at my lowest point and I've tried therapy and I still feel like it hasn't changed much since then. I've been overwhelmed, dwelling about the breakups, the falling outs of friends, and the ongoing rivalries I have with these enemies who have all the power to get me kicked out of jobs, spaces, or turned down by any type of organizations or groups I tried to join, like the real ones, not any of the fictitious fake ones like the Team Miscellaneous, but I tried to join this production group only to get turned down because of all these call-out posts. And if anything as simple as that is going to happen, what are the odds that a resentful call-out post or a resentful school viewer isn't going to try to track down any job or workplace I try to go to and get me turned down from the resume or kicked out or fired from the workplace entirely before I could even make ends meet. And these are the things that these call-out posters generally do not understand, because the call-out posters are like, oh, just simply get a job. And then they don't understand how difficult it is with somebody who is being harassed and doxxed and potentially going to be confronted by these call-out posters in real life through a workplace or a job that the call-out posters might get me fired in or kicked out from. They don't understand these things because all they do is just make up their speculations and observations. I have seen the most constantly called out YouTuber try to do stuff outside of YouTube, like getting a house of their own, getting a job of their own, and then only for some of these call-out posters to constantly get those YouTubers kicked out of the workplaces, houses, homes, buildings, and so on and so forth. So it's like I'm just going to be put back and forth throughout all this, and it's just stressful for me. I've also had enough history with just the school viewers and the rivalry I shared, and, with just the school stuff. I think to myself, that's just enough of what I need to be dealing with, and that's it. I just work on becoming a YouTuber since I aspire to want to become a YouTuber. I don't exactly know how, and I don't exactly know how to be able to get through the algorithm, let alone get through all this with the anti-Magistralverse and their rivalries. And even outside of YouTube, I don't have any type of outlet, let alone any type of community, nor any type of safe space outside of the internet, let alone YouTube. On a regular basis, I get misgendered by X and then Miss Flower, and I don't have any friends, and I can't be able to make any friends without them mocking and ridiculing me for being panromantic, demisexual, and gender fluid, and it's just so difficult. And I have these unwarranted rivalries that I never asked for in the first place, of these same enemies within the anti-Magistralverse, giving me so much problems, so much of a hard time throughout all this. I can't even get through the day, let alone the night, without somebody having so much of a petty, vengeful vendetta against me, enough to harass and dox me, or just threaten me and my livelihood. And it feels like I'm just sick of it all and tired of it all. I don't have anything else. Slowly, I have nothing else to really lose at this point, and I've hit my all-time low. I try so much to be as normal and sane as everybody else, and I can't even get what I want with just being normal like everybody else and being accepted like everybody else. I'm just backed into a corner like a sitting duck in a barrel, and I feel really stressed out so much, where I just get so frustrated and angry, and my mind somewhat dissociates to Mal sometimes, or even Lucifer Morningstar. It just really depends on the situation throughout these environments, throughout my life, and it is really stressful. I don't know any word synonymous with stressful, but it's just so stressful, and that's the only word I could be able to preface, like, the emotions and feelings I have throughout the situation, or these situations, to all this. Not even my imaginary friends could be able to talk this through and try to resolve all this. So I have all these enemies who give me this feeling of feeling threatened all the time, where I just feel so stressed out all the time, and I could barely be able to sleep because of the stress I have from these conditions and predicaments. I just cannot even be able to find much of a happy place. I can only be able to find so much of a happy place by looking at the lens of somebody else's life and how it's going way more better than mine. And it's not even like envy or jealousy of wanting something better than everybody else, but it's just wanting to feel like a human for once, at least, or be treated like a human for once, instead of being treated so subhuman by people like X. And nobody could even get it. This isn't even a good ending nor a bad ending. This isn't really supposed to even answer a single question that people want to ask me so badly. This is just at least a resolution that people aren't entirely satisfied with, nor completely against. It's so distracting for me to be able to make videos, and then I keep rubbing my nose and my face because of how dry and itchy it is. And it's just really difficult right now to just make a video. It's difficult making a video within the household because all you would be hearing are just the barking and crying noises. So I have to record in the car because it's more quieter, and I have to record throughout the night because it's more quieter. And the list goes on. I can't even make a video, even if I wanted to. I can't even make a video. It's just, I'm just emotionally drained throughout life, and so many things are so stressful, and I just feel so much stress. And then all these enemies want to further my stress. Just about any of them just dictate so much out of anything I say or do all throughout YouTube. I can make a simple cartoon series only for people to re-upload my content and claim it as theirs, make a bunch of false accusations under my artwork and animations, and then the anti-Magistralverse ostracizing how I talk with the words I say or how I write, with them telling me, oh, you don't have to write in formal sentences, or oh, you only just come off as an incel when you say woman or female. So I'd have to boil down my vocabularies down to boys, girls, NBs within the midst of the ongoing allegations and accusations I'm currently enduring and dealing with, one single-handedly. And then people just using my artwork and animations or AI generating my voice and then calling it their own content and their own videos. And then the anti-Magistralverse telling me, oh, well, you can't be able to file a DMCA takedown, let alone report the video. All while the YouTuber behind the video has been literally harassing and doxing me, and how the video is using my artwork and animations without my permission whatsoever. And I have to deal with all these ridiculously silly stuff all by myself. I don't get my good endings, and I don't even know if I'll ever get my good endings in the end. This isn't even a bad ending, let alone a good ending. And this isn't even going to be anything where I just answer all the questions that people need to ask me. It's just really all that's left within here, within my Magistralverse meetings, within the Magistralverse. I don't know how much more I could take out of this with the harassment I have been dealing with. And then these people who have been endlessly harassing and doxing me wants to constantly crawl back to me as if they want some type of forgiveness after everything that they have put me through. And I don't mean they just give me constructive criticism. I am talking about the anti-Magistralverse comprised of members who are part of a cult, who are part of a group that is served to do nothing more than weaponize my artwork and animations to create slander and further harass and dox me over and over again. And then at either my lowest point or their lowest point, they want to crawl back to me as if I owe them something to talk to them after the things they put me through, like I'm going to ever listen to them or rationalize of the amount of things that they put me through, how much of a wedge that they put between every single good connection I've once had. I have no one. I have no one left to ever trust. I have nothing else left because there's just so much being taken out of me, and it's just so stressful. This isn't even anything of a good resolution, nothing of a good revelation. It's just, I don't know anymore. I don't. I'm already sad enough than I ever need to be at this point. And it's really difficult. I'm just overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed with how there is barely anyone to ever be able to trust at this point. There's barely anybody in the same level as me willing to talk to me, unless they have to be some call-out poster, unless they have to be some school viewer, and the list goes on. I try to just block these users who harass and dox me, only for them to make new accounts to try to comment on my stuff, or add me, or interact with my social medias. I don't intentionally try to talk to these individuals who have harassed and doxed me. I don't have any intentions of ever talking to these individuals, as much as they have been trying to do so with me, with making new accounts under different names for the sole purpose of stirring up so much drama that I never asked for in the first place. I know it's so difficult for you to at least understand where I'm coming from, because it's just a bunch of people's claims over my claim, with my argument of these people have been endlessly harassing me for a long time and it's been overwhelming me, versus all these other people who want to just make up all these stuff that I literally had to refute multiple times and debunk these claims that people make about me multiple more times. This YouTube thing has been emotionally exhausting me for some time, and I believe that YouTube is somewhat of a sacrifice, to say to the least, because there is barely anything you could gain out of YouTube, unless you're one of those type of problematic YouTubers who are so much of a karma Houdini, getting away with harassing and doxing me over and over. That's like the only type of way you could have the high ground to YouTube. YouTube is barely being able to follow up with the dozens of reports I've made towards these users who have been harassing and doxing me. I had to report some of these posts of these users publicly harassing and doxing me, and there hasn't been much of a progress since, with some of the doxers still being around, and it's been overwhelming me since then. Because some of these call-out posters have been threatening to unalive me, removing me out of the gene pool over some petty, vengeful vendetta of some dubiously reliable source claims that people have been making over me over and over, all for half of a decade or so. Can't I just become a YouTuber for 1 simple second in peace and just peacefully work on some cartoons and animations, all in peace? That is all I'm trying to ask for. I'm not trying to ask for anything more. You know, all I would need are some voice actors, like some girl voice actors of girl voices voicing my characters, because I have a couple of girl characters I'd like to have voiced too. I just want my good ending. I just want my happily ever after without having to encounter all these harassers, doxers, call-out posters, etc. I don't want to deal with all these anti-Magistralverse nonsense over and over again for the next 5 years or so. I just want to peacefully work on my artwork and animations, and that's all I have strived to wanting to do, make artwork and animations. It's something I've wanted to pursue and still try to pursue. It's all I need right now. I promise to be a YouTuber, or promise to at least be a cartoonist, drawing and animating furries. That is something I want to do. And it's really difficult to find voice actors. And it's not really going to be any easy using AI generation of voices, because I would not like to. It's not of my best of interest using AI generated voices. Like, do you really think it's a good idea AI generating Michaela Dietz's voice for Nostalgia Homesick, or just AI generating a headcanon voice of just about any character who's a tomboy or some very not so much feminine but slightly more masculine girl for a voice for my tomboy characters? And I'm not making any excuses or anything. I have genuinely tried asking a big number of people if they want to voice act for my cartoon series, and my controversy is too severe for people to want to attend to my voice cast because of how severe the controversy is. I'm just aiming to look for voice actors, preferably any girls with girl voices. I have been given offers to voice act my girl characters. However, the voices do not fit well enough with the girl characters, because I'm going for a girl voice for the girl characters I am drawing and animating throughout the Magistralverse, and it's something I'm really firm with throughout the Magistralverse. It is something I prefer within the canon throughout my cartoon series, and I don't know why I have to make a whole video explaining really the preference on the voice I prefer out of these characters individually, but unfortunately I have to make a whole video really going over all this, but it's really complicated since so much technical difficulties further complicated my plans to make the headcanon voice claims for some of my characters. And again, I'm not even a huge fan of using AI for voice acting. Drawing, I don't know how to explain myself with AI generating artwork that I drew or that I requested AI to do for me. However, people have AI generated my voice before I stumbled across the AI generations of artwork and animations, and I don't use AI as an instant substitute for artwork and animations. Maybe for reference, but that's just about it. I don't use AI to create a whole entire artwork, let alone an animation. I don't understand why the anti-Magistralverse calls me out for using AI, despite the fact that they have AI generated my voice. Two people within the anti-Magistralverse has used AI generation material to use my voice without my permission, and one has used AI generation to use their voice, which didn't directly use my voice, but their own voice. I'm not going to get into specifics on which call-out poster within the anti-Magistralverse did what, because they have already admitted to using artificial intelligence for the voices, and I just don't think it really works well, in my opinion, and I'd rather get the authentic voices from anyone who wants to volunteer to voice act for my characters. My characters, specifically a number of girl characters I need voiced for the Magistralverse, and possibly Time Majesty Ruff's Adventures if I want to work on the series still. I still have plans for a comic in case people want to make comic dubs, and it could be their form of fair use if they want to voice dub at my comics. However, I'm not really sure about creating an entire continuation to the series for Time Majesty Ruff's Adventures, considering the loss of the voice actors I've already experienced losing over and over again. I wish it was so simple as looking for a voice actor, a girl voice actor who could voice act my girl characters, something as simple as that, but most of these voice actors don't really do this type of stuff for free. I'd have to get a lot of money, like potentially making paintings in real life and then selling the paintings, or just recycling a lot of bottles and getting $5 to $10 each day I recycle bottles. So if I multiplied the days I usually recycle bottles, or just count every single month of each time at least that I recycle the bottles and actually try to save up the money when I recycle the bottles, I should probably be getting about $60 in total each month, assuming that I save up the money, saving it for the voice cast, or potentially, at least if I don't have enough of the money, I try to work on some artwork and animations for the voice actors who'd want to do it for free. And at least then I give them a type of free artwork or animation in return for them contributing to voice acting my characters. Something along the lines where I could be able to reciprocate something back in return, so it doesn't feel like they're just doing it for free. So I can make things fair, because I at least want to make it fair. I initially considered myself as a chaotic neutral because of my prior life as a chaotic neutral who has been this truant, a type of serial truant really overall. And I have spent my time at least trying to get the graduation diploma and work my way towards graduating at least. That's all I would need, the diploma. And then there's all these sorts of things I'm expected to do even afterwards, and it's been overwhelming me. So I've been at least trying to see if I could get the voice actors so I could prove that I need to work on this cartoon series, and there's people who are waiting for me. at least to work on this cartoon series, to be able to prove to X and Miss Flower that I really take this cartoon thing really seriously. And it's really difficult when the voice actors opt out and I don't have anything left. And it's just so stressful. It's so stressful. And it's not only just stressful that I don't have the voice actors, but it's also stressful that when I try to voice act, there's all this like noise and commotion within my own house of a dog barking at least. And it just overwhelms me. And I can't even get through any part of the day without hearing all the commotion. And throughout the night, maybe the noise is slightly more quieter. And there's all these other problems that I have to deal with and endure day and night. And it just overwhelms me. It's like nobody could ever understand all this, let alone care to understand. And I do not blame them, but I do not take it lightly when people try to shift the blame throughout my misfortunes on me, saying I brought it all upon myself, even though the amount of things I have dealt with throughout my whole entire life, I did not ask for. I did not ask for X to force me to go to a daycare I didn't like going to. I did not ask to constantly be beaten my emotions out of by X, nor the babysitter's eldest son when I was just only a kid at the time. I endured so much trauma, and the fact that the anti-Magistralverse acknowledges at least one, if not many, of the trauma I've endured, and they want to dance all over my trauma and act like it's a party or a joke for my many misfortunes really says a lot about all of them. It says a lot about them all. And if you somehow have the slightest bit of an idea on who I'm talking about, do not bother approaching these individuals whatsoever. Do not bother talking to these individuals in any way. Just don't. I'm already dealing with so much with these enemies who constantly give me a very difficult time. And the last thing I need is for any of my followers to try to interact with my call-up posters and form some sort of back and forth rivalry. I don't want any of that. I just want to focus on making my cartoon series and go from there. I just want to be able to have Ed Gold and Nick Dante's wishes posthumously pursued at the hands of me, Mr. Magistral Malik. That's all that matters to me right now. That's all that matters to me at this very moment. There's nothing else I really care about doing other than working on this cartoon series. I have nothing else to lose if I experience losing friends over and over, losing partners over and over, and just further losing opportunities to get jobs, scholarships, or join any groups through YouTube to create some videos and artwork and animations. If I lose all of these opportunities and stuff, it's like I just have nothing else to lose at this point. It isn't even any better that the suggestions that the call-out posters tell me to attend the jobs to. They could easily just check to see if I'm working around that job and try to get me kicked out or fired out of there, which is why I don't even bother trying to get a job at that point, because I know they'll just try to get me out of that job through any means of just talking to the manager, and then they just tell me, oh, don't ever hire this individual, and then they just bring up a big post, and then next thing you know, the manager gives me this type of pink slip, and you'd have to make up your imagination to try to imagine what the pink slip means to know what it all means, but I would just not have the ability to be able to get a job at the hands of these call-out posters and school viewers and anyone within the anti-Magistralverse. It's just really difficult. If I can't even get a job online, how any better would it be in real life at the hands of the call-out posters and the school viewers within the anti-Magistralverse? This isn't even anything close to a true good ending, let alone the false bad ending. This is just the neutral ending for me. This is just where life is going on, however it's gonna go, and I'm just still walking, alone, feeling sad, lost, confused, and just scared, not knowing what to do and feeling emotionally paralyzed. That is what I have to feel every single time. So I guess this is all I wanted to explain throughout the finale of my Magistralverse meetings. But I want to finish this video with one last thing to say. We are not bots. We are YouTubers, and YouTubers are